So my name is Logan Speights. I'm a co-founder at Proxy. We are a remote chief of staff company. So when I say that, most people typically think one of two things, right? They either think government or they think military. And so there's been a movement to pull the chief of staff out of those entities and into the business world. And so really what we're doing is we're really walking in lockstep with executives, saving them time, introducing initiatives into their organizations that really need to be taken care of. We'd like to say kind of clearing the whiteboard.
Right.
And then really being that trusted third-party advisor, especially in times like now, right? Somebody that you can bounce things off of, somebody that you can talk to, and somebody who can get feedback on before you take it into your organizations and even into your C-suites or executive boards. And so really it's a chief of staff to come in and take a lot of the headache of running a business off of your shoulders and letting executives do what they do best, and that's run their business.
Very good. How long have you been doing that?
We are in our second year right now, so it's been going very, very well.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so a couple months ago, you and one of your business colleagues, you developed a leadership training called Leading in the New Normal. And I can take a guess why that came up, but it focuses on crisis leadership. And I'd like to hear from you about some of the research that went into creating the content that you came up with for this conversation.
Yeah, of course. So like I mentioned, being the chief of staff, we are face-to-face and embedded in a number of industries and segments and company sizes, working one-on-one with executives every day. And so a lot of our research came out of those conversations that we're having with these different companies and how are they adjusting and what are they doing. And it came out of a conversation with how do we serve our clients better, right? We were trying to understand what can we bring as a chief of staff into your organization to help you do better. And as we started talking through a bunch of our different clients, we started seeing these personas come out. And that's really what started off the conversation. And then we started looking into the world as a whole and found a couple more of those personas coming out in those that aren't necessarily in our small world. And then it really started to resonate with the people we were sharing it with. And so that's turned into a series of articles that we've written and a series of talks that we've given. And it seems to be fairly accurate with the audiences that we present it to.
And you had some really interesting crisis leadership archetypes that you guys came up with based on these personas. Could you talk a little bit more in detail about, I believe there were 6 of them, correct?
There are 6.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about what those differences are and how you came up with them and how a leader can kind of fit themselves into those archetypes.
Of course. So first we can hit those 6. So we have the holiday executive, we have the grinder is what we like to call them, the analyst, the fallen, the white knight, and then the challenger executive. So those are the 6 categories that we really pulled out. And I'll hit each one real quick, right? So your holiday executive, these are the ones that when everything hit, they shut it all down, right? Now, we like to say that this is a no judgment zone, right? When we say shut it down, that's not necessarily a negative thing, right? They've taken care of business, they've gotten everything going, but they looked out at the environment and said, for whatever reason, we can't operate as normal. And so we're going to step out, right? We're going to spend time with our family. We're going to do things that we want to do. A lot of this is in like the food and beverage services, the event services, a lot of retail. Those are the executives who are like, look, I can't do anything anyway, so I'm going to enjoy my time with my family and doing other things that I enjoy instead of really digging into the business itself. And so we've seen a lot of those guys. As we move into the grinder, right? The grinder is the guy who really can't see past this week, right? They don't know how they're going to get out of today, much less how they're going to move forward. And so it's just nose to the grindstone, constantly working through to see what can they do to make their business last one more day, right? In the future, and what does the new normal look like doesn't matter because they're not going to make it out of this week, okay? The analyst takes it one step further, right? The analyst can't even get to that point because they're in analysis paralysis. They're looking at all of the data and they're trying to come up with the perfect solution in a world where we have imperfect data, right? And so they're looking out and they're trying to find it. And it's always one step forward, 2 steps back. What do I do? What's the right answer? And the secret is there is no right answer. And so they're really locked in that analysis paralysis. The fallen, God bless this group, right? They are trying their best to do it, and they've hit this, and they're either curled up in the fetal position, dying or dead. And honestly, we lose 80% of small businesses in a good year, right? You take something like COVID and everything else on top of it, and these are the executives who, for the best intentions, just aren't going to be able to make it through, right? And so we have the fallen. The white knights are those ones really exemplified by your Mark Cubans, right? Your Bill Gates, the ones who have stepped in, and they're really providing substantial resources in powerful ways to help the industry as a whole, right? So they're stepping outside of their businesses, outside of their worlds, and really kind of leading the fight on a global scale, if not a national scale. And then the last one, the challenger executives are the ones that we found that really take on these worthy challenges that are coming up, right? They lead with self-assurance and with optimism. They try to inspire their people, and they walk into this different world thinking differently and operating differently, embracing the irrationality that's going around today, and really trying to lead their companies in the new normal.
And would you feel that most leaders can learn from this and adapt their own style of this type of crisis leadership within their own persona? Or do you feel that it's more of a reflection of that individual's personality already, and then that kind of gets manifested or projected outward based on the style of how that person already operates?
Sure. I think it's a both and, right? You have your natural innate, what am I going to do in this environment, right? And so I think if any executive is honest with themselves, they've had a little bit of each of these in themselves as they've gone through the crisis, right? But I do believe that you can take a step back, you can take a look at it and go, as a leader in my organization, what do I need to do? And so that's why we've been putting out a lot of challenger executive work right now to try to show who you can be, things that you can do to step more into that challenger executive role and away from some of the other ones. Not that one is better than the other, but we've seen a lot of success as the challenger executive in today's world. And so, yeah, I think it's easier for some people to move into that than others. But I do believe that anybody can take on any of these archetypes, and sometimes more than one as the day progresses.
So in your conversations with other leaders, have you found that during this whole pandemic shutdown that leaders have learned something, new that they're going to move forward with in the future that they can take forward from this, or that they would have changed and done differently from this entire experience? Because this came on very quickly and suddenly and left a lot of people in the dust.
It really did. So yeah, looking back, there's obviously a number of things that people would do different, hindsight being 2020. But that's always the easy thing. A lot of it is just trying to be as healthy as you can moving forward, right? There are a number of things that we typically recommend that we call success behaviors that challenger executives tend to exhibit. And so the primary one is, especially when you don't know what tomorrow will bring, decide with speed and conviction, right? Don't sit and wonder what you're going to do. You've got to be able, as an executive, to see around the corners, to lead decisively. One of the things that we see a lot of leaders do in times like this is they fall back to into some of the analysis paralysis, where if you just make a decision, you move forward, you get into that agile mentality, and you iterate quickly, you'll have a higher chance of success as you move forward.
Great stuff, Logan. Really appreciate you coming on. How can people find you other than your website? Where are you online, or are there other ways to hear content from you directly?
Sure. So obviously LinkedIn, we post a lot of stuff out there as Proxy. So again, company name is Proxy. Our website is remotechiefofstaff.com. And please feel free to go check that out. We even have an ROI calculator. If you're struggling with some of this, feel free to reach out. We would love to help kind of navigate you through these crazy times, and hopefully come out the other side better, bigger, and stronger.
What a pleasure. Good to see you, man.
Yes, sir. Good to see you too.
Thanks again.